Baseball is back with a bang. Your Texas Rangers win 11-7 in their season debut in one of the wildest opening day games we've seen in a long time. We have Jacob deGrom nonsense, offensive nonsense, and all kinds of nonsense happening in this Texas Rangers win. We're going to break down all of that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow us. Follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into this absolutely buck wild bonkers opening day game, this episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Oh my goodness, what an absolutely bonkers first game of baseball for these Texas Rangers to play in the Bruce Bochy, Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi era. It was a wild 11-7 win that had all kinds of twists and turns, and there is just so much to get into in this one, but I feel like we should go ahead and start with the fact that the Rangers are above 500 for the first time since August 15th, 2020. That is the last time this team had a winning record. They got really close to it at the end of May last season. They're right at 500, and then boom, losing streak, never even sniffed 500 again. The Rangers right now for the next, hour or so until the Astros either win or lose and the late night games happen in the AL West. Texas Rangers, for at least a couple hours, are sitting on top of the AL West standings. It has been a long time since that has happened, and man, what a glorious day, and it feels like they deserve it after this buck wild game. But we're going to start with the starting, and we're going to start with the starting pitching in Jacob deGrom. Man, what an absolutely immaculate, not literally immaculate first inning, but I mean, it was beautiful. It was breathtaking. It was artwork. It was mastery of a craft. Jacob deGrom versus Trea Turner, the hottest hitter in the world versus the best pitcher in baseball. It was everything you want, and it was over in 3 pitches. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. See you later, Trea Turner. You can't touch this. Ending with 100 miles an hour. It's just absolutely beautiful. Starting with 100 miles an hour, ending with a 90-something mile an hour slider, and then, of course, later on, finishing the inning with 101 miles an hour, painting the outside corner like a Rembrandt masterpiece, and ending that perfect inning. And well, kind of got rough a little bit after that for Jacob deGrom, the Rangers' new ace. Finishes the day with 3 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 5 runs, all of which were earned, no walks, 7 strikeouts, and 1 home run. The line does not look good. The Rangers bullpen and the offense were able to pick him up in this one. That last run was allowed to score via Cole Ragans, who came in relief in this one. You may have forgotten that Cole Ragans was the one who came in relief. He also gets the win, if you care about those sort of things in this game. But it feels like so long ago that Cole Ragans pitched in this game because so many different things happened. We had a beautiful first inning, a little bit out of control second inning with a double, and then an opposite field home run by Alec Bohm, the third baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies, a guy who has not hit a whole lot of home runs in his career, guy who has a lot of power, a lot of extra base hits, but has not been lifting the ball in his career. He lifts the ball. He lifts it very well into the opposite field, the Rangers bullpen in right field as a right-handed hitter, gives the Phillies a 2-0 lead, and their ace was absolutely dominant in this one until that fateful 4th inning where the Rangers really broke it up. And it was a really good performance from Aaron Nola. Ends the day with a not-so-great line, 3 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 5 runs, all of which were earned, 4 strikeouts, a dinger, and 2 walks. That dinger, I believe, was his last action of the day, because the Rangers, while they were down 5-0 headed into the bottom of that fourth inning, they dropped a 9 spot, the most runs they have scored in an opening day game in a single inning specifically. And it was they scored every which way, which I think was my favorite part of the offense. We'll get into that in just a second. But the pitching, Jacob deGrom, I'm not really worried about Jacob deGrom at all, and I don't think you should be, even the slightest bit. I mean, you look at the Baseball Savant page for this game, and you look at the top 5 pitches in terms of velocity in this game. You have Jacob deGrom, 101 miles an hour. Jacob deGrom, 100 miles an hour. Jacob deGrom, the next 3, 99.7, 99.7, 99.7. The guy looked like himself. He led the game in swings and misses with 10. Brock Burke was second with 9, and those are the only 2 Rangers in the top 5 there. The Rangers' exit velocities, they were hitting the crap out of baseballs. Corey Seager, 109 miles an hour to lead the game, and Brad Miller with his dinger, who I do owe Brad Miller an apology later on in the show, was coming off the bat at 108 miles per hour. But a lot of these hits, they were extra base hits, and kind of in a weird way, a back-to-back triple situation, which I don't think I've seen back-to-back triples in maybe ever in Major League game. If I have, it's maybe been once in my lifetime. But in the third inning, the Phillies started off with back-to-back triples from their number 9 hitter, and Trea Turner, who comes back after getting absolutely just embarrassed, frankly, by Jacob deGrom in his first at-bat, which, again, we've all been embarrassed by Jacob deGrom, those who have stepped into a batter's box against him. I have not, so I have not been embarrassed. So in that regard only, I am better than Trea Turner. But he got his revenge with a triple to drive in Brandon Marsh to give the Phillies a 3-0 lead. But that triple was so weird. It's partially because of Trea Turner's absolutely elite speed, which is why they signed him, but it's also just partially where the ball was placed. It was not hit hard. It came off the bat at 69 miles an hour, a nice exit velocity, but not one that was necessarily very hard hit. And the expected batting average on that specific type of hit with that launch angle and all of those metrics was a 140 expected batting average. And that goes into be a triple and score another run. And then, of course, it's followed up with a JT Realmuto RBI double that came off the bat even slower than that at 61 miles an hour. Not necessarily the hardest hit balls, but they were just finding places. Now, when we came in to the fourth inning, that's when Jacob deGrom actually started getting lit up by hard hit balls by Alec Boehm, by Jake Cave, Brandon Marsh, Kyle Schwarber, all of those guys. Everyone who made contact in that inning made really, really hard contact. And that was what ended up being the day for Jacob deGrom. Coming up, we're going to look at that super weird third inning and why I don't blame Jacob deGrom. I actually blame Rob Manfred for the nonsense that happened there. But first, this episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Buying tickets for your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have. If you want to go to another Rangers game or a Rangers game this weekend, you can check them out on Saturday and Sunday. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. We'll see Zach Wheeler versus Nathan Eovaldi on Saturday. That should be a very, very fun matchup as well. And, you know, the Game Time app is the perfect place to go get them. Forget the months of planning. Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code of LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, the Rangers offense was really great in the fourth inning, but in that third inning, there was some bad vibes, some bad juju by just bringing in Rob Manfred to sing his praises about, oh my gosh, this game is going to be so fast. Oh my gosh, look at all these spring training games, and the broadcast just grinded to an absolute halt. The Bally Sports people do a fine job. Dave Raymond does a great job as the play-by-play guy, but it was just so dreadfully painful watching them just sit there and sing the praises of Rob Manfred, while that very same inning they were having issues with the PitchCom technology and still singing the praise of how great PitchCom is, which again, I think it is pretty great, but it's kind of ironic. Maybe read the room when you're having a 5, 10, however long the delay was. It felt like quite a while, and it felt even more painful with having to listen to Rob Manfred talk about how he's saving baseball, which he isn't because he doesn't even really care about the game. Wait, it's fine. It's fine. We don't need to even go there. But I'm blaming that third inning and Jacob deGrom getting all out of sorts and bad vibes from old Papa Rob, as my friends refer to him, and I roll my eyes in disgust literally every single time. But it's not Jacob deGrom. It is the bad vibes from Commissioner Rob Manfred that made that third inning go astray. But everything went right in the fourth inning, and everything right for the Texas Rangers offense. It was a team effort, a very much depth of the lineup showing up and showing out. I was a little frustrated when I saw Brad Miller in the lineup hitting 8th as your DH when, Mitch Garver is literally right there sitting on the bench just waiting to use his massive bat. How many 30 homer seasons has Brad Miller had as a catcher to win the Silver Slugger in under 100 games? It's spoiler alert, it's none. But Mitch Garver has done that. I know he had an underwhelming season last year, but he still performed better in the limited time, who was also hurt as Brad Miller. So I thought, okay, you got to trot out your best guys there, but Bruce Bochy or Chris Young or whoever was setting this lineup knew something about having Brad Miller in there to deliver a 2-run homer to kind of seal the insurance after a 9-run inning. But that 9-run inning was absolutely massive, and it came from the entire offense, not just that top 3 in the lineup, which again is absolutely fantastic and one of the best top 3s in baseball, but it was the middle third. It was everybody in there doing their part. Adolis Garcia coming up with clutch at bats, and Josh Young, I think his walk to load the bases for Jonah Heim, who would start off the scoring with a 2-run double just over the head of the first baseman. I think that walk was really, really huge. Young really struggled last year when he first came up to the majors. He's a guy who throughout his minor league and college career has been a very, very patient hitter, a very measured guy who has a plan, knows what he's doing, and is not going to let you get him out of his head. And he got a little bit out of his head in his short stint in the big leagues of 26 games last year, and a lot of different prospect lists or baseball prospectors in particular, which, I've given Grant plenty of shade for that. Really dropped him down, and a lot of people thought, oh, well, is this the guy who he is? Is he really going to be able to even hit for power or have a really good approach? But he took 6 straight pitches, including 2 of them for called strikes, which I don't think were strikes. There was a generous zone, but it was consistent at least, and I do appreciate that about the home plate umpire. But Josh Young said, nope, this is a big spot. We have 1 out and runners on the corners. I am going to trust the rest of my lineup and not swing the bat and let Jonah Heim go and pull a Heim time and come up with a clutch hit. And that's exactly what Jonah Heim did. And he didn't try and do too much. He didn't try and pull it over the fence. He just lined it right over the first baseman's head. Derek Hall was the first baseman listed at 6'4", and Rhys Hoskins, you might remember, is the normal first baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies. He is also 6'4". I went and looked this up because it was literally just over the glove of Derek Hall. I wasn't quite sure how tall he was, and I thought, oh, maybe I knew Rhys Hoskins was pretty tall, and I thought maybe if Rhys Hoskins was there, he would have made that catch. I don't know. Neither of them are necessarily stellar defensive first basemen, but just an interesting thing to think about. But Jonah Heim in early season, like he did last year, showing up and showing out. I remember he had a big game, a big series in Toronto to start the season. And then Robbie freaking Grossman with the swing of the night. Who thought that was going to happen from your number 7 hole hitter after a couple of not great plays in right field? Again, I don't love his arm in right field. I think having Adolis out there in right field is a lot better, and letting Robbie Grossman just be there in left field was not necessarily the fleetest of foot in the outfield, and a lot of extra base hits for these Phillies that I think a slightly better arranged defensive outfield would have saved. But he made up for it. A 2-0 fastball from the ace of this Phillies staff, Aaron Nola, was left up there, and it is not 99, 100, 101 miles an hour like Jacob deGrom, so you can't just blow it by guys. And Robbie Grossman, who had a fantastic spring, absolutely fantastic spring, not only working walks, but also hitting the ball over the fence occasionally, ended the spring with a pair of home runs and an 1100 OPS. He took that ball and deposited it in the right field bullpen for a 3-run shot. I believe that was what capped off the final scoring of that inning. No, excuse me, that was really just what set it off. That was the game-tying home run. But then, come up a little later, the thing that I really loved about this offense is that they were scoring in multiple different ways. They got their next run from a Nathaniel Lowe chopper right to the pitcher, just slowly hit. A really nice attempt from the pitcher to get the force out at home, which was really his only play. Wasn't able to get it. That is Nathaniel Lowe, American League first base silver slugger to you. And Adolis Garcia, working really great at bats. He has been much more patient in the spring and is translating in the regular season. He lined a single to the opposite field, to right field, and Nick Castellanos to score Corey Seager and Nathaniel Lowe, and was out at second base on, I think, a kind of controversial call. But, I didn't really get a good look at the replay. Neither the Rangers. They decided not to challenge it, and that ended the inning. But it was enough to give the Rangers those 9 runs, which was more than they would need to win this one. But they added some insurance runs and some pretty great defensive plays and a really great performance by the bullpen that we need to talk about. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The tournament is heating up, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to fanduel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to fanduel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Now this bullpen and these defensive changes, that is something that I absolutely loved. It is game 1 of 162. The Rangers had a big lead, and Bruce Bochy says, yep, I've seen the error, not necessarily a literal error because the Rangers did not have any errors, but I've seen the error of this outfield, and I'm going to make a change. It's going to look a little weird because it's going to be Bubba Thompson pinch hitting for Josh Smith, but it is time to put Bubba Thompson in center field, time to put Adolis and his big ol' arm in right field, and Robbie Grossman and his misadventures in right field earlier in the day. Put that in left field, have a little bit less misadventures, more just regular adventures in left field. That is something that I really, really loved seeing in this game, managing it like it matters, because every game matters, because this team has playoff expectations. And like I said in the Phillies crossover, this team needs to come out of the gates hot. They need to win. If you win the series against Philadelphia and then you win the series against Baltimore, you have a lot of really, really weak opponents in the first month of the season outside of Houston, and I believe there is one more difficult opponent. Maybe it's the Mariners they have a series against. I can't remember. There's some other team that was also very good. But for the most part, it's against the likes of the Royals and the Reds and the bottoms of baseball. And so if you can win a series against this reigning NL champs team, then you need to. And frankly, the bullpen was also managed like it was a must-win game. Cole Reagan's coming in a little shaky out of the bullpen. He has not done that a whole lot in his career, so it's to be expected. He did allow the inherited runner to score, but was able to get out of it without much more incident there. Allowed a hit and a walk. Did not strike anybody out in his 1/3 inning of work. Then on comes Brock Burke, who does allow a run, but was able to get through 2 innings. Jonathan Hernandez comes in. He's able to get through 2 innings and allow a run as well. Burke had 3 strikeouts in this one and looked mostly pretty good. Looked like the Brock Burke of last year, maybe not quite as completely dominant. But again, this is a really dangerous Phillies lineup from top to bottom, and they added Trea Turner. I know they did lose their first baseman, Rhys Hoskins, and there is no Bryce Harper at the moment, but it is still a very dangerous lineup. And so Brock Burke and Jonathan Hernandez both going 2 innings kind of showed, hey, this is a game we want to freaking win. We want to start off 1-0. It has been a long time since the Rangers have won on opening day. I believe maybe it was 2020 they won. I know that they only have 2 wins before today in their last 10 opening days. So the Rangers really wanted to start out on a good note with Jacob deGrom, with Bruce Bochy in this new era with a lot of expectations. And then on comes Jose Leclerc in the 9th inning. A little bit of shakiness there. Of course, he had to make a sweat for it, and of course the final pitch was on a full count because that is the Jose Leclerc experience. But he came in, he shut the door down, and there was not a whole lot of drama. There was a little bit of drama in the defensive dramatic robbery by Bubba Thompson, a home run robbery in center field off the bat of Jake Cave, just absolutely smacked in that 8th, I believe it was the 8th inning off of Jonathan. Yeah, top of the 8th inning with 1 out, a 2-0 pitch that was kind of left up there. It was about to be deposited into the opposing bullpen, but here comes Bubba Thompson and his literally 80, 85, maybe even 90 grade speed. I know it only goes up to 80, but this guy is just so freaking fast, and he has very much improved his route running defensively. I like him in center field. I don't love his bat nearly as much as I like Josh Smith being in there. He had some pretty good at-bats today as well, or even getting Ezekiel Duran's bat in there. But being more aggressive with these defensive substitutions late in games, even in game 1 or game 11 or whatever, being more aggressive and taking the extra base, it just seemed like this is a team that was much more possessed of, it's so cliche and I hate saying it, but it's accurate, of just doing the little things well. It is something that this team has not done well over the past few years, and is, I think, part of why they were so bad in 1-run games last year. And maybe it's the Bruce Bochy effect. Maybe it's just literally one game and it's opening day and it is human nature to overreact. But it just looked like a little bit of a different team. There are a lot of new faces here, from the manager to most of the starting pitching staff to a few hitters as well. But this looks like a team possessed, a different team, a group that is very focused on winning right now. And man, it was just so good to have baseball back. From that first inning of deGrom to a 9-run bottom of the 4th inning from the offense. Gosh, I didn't realize how much I miss baseball, even with the World Baseball Classic being as great as it was, with spring training being back and yada, yada, yada. It just hits differently on opening day. The unbridled optimism, even from the most pessimistic, the ballpark mood, the air, even the casualist of casuals being like, oh, is this a year? Is this a year I should tune into baseball? Is this going to be a fun team? Is it worth it for me to invest my time and my heart and my money and my emotions in this baseball team? Because it hasn't been for the last few years. And all of that hype that, the team, the marketing department, the front office, players, management, even media, even me on my own little podcast have been sunshine pumping since they signed Jacob deGrom and got Bruce Bochy and got an entirely new rotation. I was even doing so very cautiously. It kind of feels a little bit different, and this team may end up losing a billion games, and maybe Jacob deGrom gets hurt, and maybe everything goes to crap, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe this team does stay healthy. Maybe this rotation is as good as everyone has hoped. Maybe this offense just is a very deep and complete offense, and maybe Brad Miller's last year was just due to the injuries. Maybe Robbie Grossman does have kind of a bounce back and has closer to that 800-ish OPS season that he had with the Tigers in 2021 than what he did last year when he was not very great offensively. Maybe Mitch Garver is healthy. Maybe Jonah Heim is more the first half Jonah Heim than the second. Maybe Josh Young is the rookie of the year. Maybe this middle infield is the absolute star-studded middle infielder that we expected them to be. Maybe the bullpen was overlooked. Maybe they were overworked last year. Maybe they really are that good. Maybe Bruce Bochy has the absolute magic sprinkled dust to cast over all of this and fix all ailments and all sadness caused by baseball in this town over the last few years. I don't know. but man, does it feel good to have some opening day baseball back on my television. And man, do I love baseball, the stupidest, weirdest, most beautiful sport. You have two of the best pitchers in the entire planet, and it ends in a 7-11 game, because why the heck not in a 9-run inning? Of course, coming from bloop singles and 3-run homers from Robbie Grossman and massive opposite field shots from Brad Miller on good pitches from good relievers, and great relief outings from the Rangers bullpen, who needed to make up for a bad Jacob deGrom's start. Like, what? I could not have scripted much weirder of a baseball game than the one we got today, with pitch comm issues, and it still ended up being only 3 hours and 4 minutes, with 4 minutes, which honestly kind of felt a little bit like an eternity with what we've seen from these baseball games with pitch clocks. But give me all of the baseball if it's going to be this weird. Give me all the 3-hour games if they're all going to be this chaotic with this many pitching changes and turns and twists and random things happening, that I feel like I am forgetting so much of this game, because it was just such an absolutely wild one. But man, what a way to come back for this season. What a way to kick it off. Get a whole day to just decompress and reset yourselves and find some zen before Saturday's game of Zach Wheeler versus Nathan Eovaldi. Maybe Brad Miller will be back in that lineup and I will shut my freaking trap and he'll be the best DH 8-hole hitter. This is my official apology to Brad Miller. I tweeted out during the game that if your DH is hitting in 8th in your lineup, then you should probably get a different DH. But no, it's just because this lineup is so incredibly deep, you couldn't possibly put the great Robbie Grossman any lower than the 7th hole. Of course, you have the top 3 in Adolis Garcia being a completely different hitter. Corey Seager hitting 333 with a pair of walks, and this one looks like him without the shift is just as much of a hitter's paradise as we expected it. Marcus Semien with a multi-hit game. Maybe his slow start is not going to happen this year. I was kind of hoping we could get a Marcus Semien home run in the opener, so we don't have to do that whole thing we did last year of, let's see how many 60 games or however long it took for him to get his first home run. I'm sure that Corey Seager will probably have his first home run of the season by the time they leave Arlington. Maybe he'll even have his first 2, because again, he freaking loves hitting in Globe Life Field. Maybe Marcus Semien can learn to hit well in Globe Life Field this year, the second year that it is his home. But what a freaking day. An 11-7 victory for your Texas Rangers. The new era is here. It feels different. It's just one day. But man, what a freaking day and what a freaking baseball game this was. Thank y'all so much for listening all week. Episode number 6 of the week. A lot of baseball happening. I will be out for the weekend in Houston, seeing some friends, and not watching any Astros games. Don't you worry about that. I'm not going to go to any Astros games. Maybe some college basketball games. But been a great week. So happy that baseball is back, and so happy that y'all have been joining me, making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Now, for your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy opening day baseball.